Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to the South Main Auto Channel. Got a 2015 Mitsubishi. It's the Mirage. It's got 1,200 cc's of thunder. The big 1.2. It's a 3-cylinder. Hasn't been inspected in a couple of years. Inspection ran out in 2022. It's now the year 2024. So he's been driving it illegally for a couple years because he can't get it to go through because the money light's been on. Had some EVAP issues. Apparently somebody got under the back seat, did the hokey pokey, and then jammed a bunch of wires. Everything turned green. Apparently he fixed those wires. Still having an issue. He shotgunned some parts at it. Nothing stuck. So now he wants us to have a look at it and see if we can't figure out what the real problem is. I know this isn't ideal pointing at the screen, but it's the best we have. So it has this 441 stored in there. Now I did go into generic data, and it is permanent pending and active. So, and this is the code the customer told me that he's been combating as of late. So I did some looking, pulled up in service data this Tech Talk article put out by Mitsubishi. This is a product line that I don't work on very much, so I'm not super familiar with these cars, but it looks like it has a pretty standard EVAP system. Tank, canister, purge valve, vent valve. So, be similar to, GM, Honda, Ford, quite a few cars that run a pretty basic EVAP system. This Tech Talk article, get your words straight there, fella. I don't know if it's just an update to Mitsubishi Tech's service manager, service advisors, but it gives a little description on the 441, which is helpful. 441 sets when the negative fuel tank pressure is below -2 kilopascals or -0.6 inches of mercury during normal driving. During driving, the fuel tank pressure is monitored continuously by the OBD2 system. EVAP monitors as the PCM closes the purge and vent solenoids. It says down here, most likely reason for the 441 set during the EVAP monitor is due to blockage or restriction on the vent side of the system in a hose or vent valve or frame where the hose vents. So like a spider could get in there and build a nest, or some kind of other bug, or get sucked full of dirt, restricting the vent side. We see that often on General Motors. Let's see here. Since the fuel tank pressure sensor is continuously monitored, whenever the fuel tank pressure reads below the -2 kilopascals or -0.6 inches of mercury, the 441 will set. So that gives us our code set criteria. It's seeing a big negative vacuum in the tank. Thought it was kind of neat. It gives us a picture of all your components: the canister, purge hoses, tank pressure sensor, vent valve, purge valve, filler neck, vent hose, and your what is this, onboard recovery, what is it, or filling recovery vapor module, your what is that acronym? Onboard refueling vapor recovery vent module. Okay, here's a guy who's ill prepared. It gives us a flow chart if you want to use their flow chart, but what I found handy on here is it gives us our voltage to pressure specs. It's kind of hard to read on here. Maybe you guys can read it better than I can. But it does give us our voltage to inches of mercury, or our voltage to kilopascal. So if we go into scan data here, we're in live data. Well, it says we need to know what our baseline is. So 0. Okay, 0. So atmospheric pressure is 2.5 volts. So it's going to be just like Ford. And then, let's see, as pressure increases, voltage increases. And as we go into a negative pressure, voltage goes down. So voltage goes up, pressure goes up. And here we are. Fuel tank pressure. 2,524 millivolts. Can we just change that to volts? We cannot, we don't have the button. So 2.5 volts. So that's good. That's atmospheric pressure. And I just saw it wiggle. So that probably means, can we wiggle the car? Sometimes we get her, just get the gas jostling around back there. Okay, so it looks like our fuel tank pressure sensor. We can give a little toot in the gas tank to make sure that works. Oh, you guys are unenhanced. So we have fuel tank pressure, We have purge. We have fuel level. Let me just see if we have a vent or any EVAP, TV relay. I'm not super familiar with their acronyms, so we might cruise past it, but we're gonna have a little gander here anyways. Fuel system status. Oh no, nothing there. Let me just scroll back top, make sure I didn't miss it. Power supply. Maybe it doesn't show us our canister vent valve. Okay, so this is what we do have. Fuel tank pressure. We'll graph that little guy. So that's 0 to 3 volts. Fuel gauge and purge. So I say, if we're looking for negative pressure in the tank when it's not supposed to be there, you know, it could be a bad purge valve. He told me he put one on it and hasn't resolved the issue though. So it was an aftermarket one, so we got to keep that in mind. Let me just start it up just to see what we see here. Contact. Ooh. Mitsubishi Thunder. Well, it didn't yank it right into a vacuum, so that's good, I guess. Providing our sensor is working, which it kind of jostles around there. While we're waiting for the purge to kick on, let's blow a little air in the gas tank and see if that works. Let me go get a blow nozzle. I grabbed a blow nozzle. The gas cap is off from it. Let's see, the purge just kicked on. Let me go shoot a little air in there. We should see an increase in pressure technically. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, listen to that. It stalled the car. That's pretty amazing. Well, it looks like it worked though, huh? Maybe I shouldn't have tooted it so hard. Must be the purge valve was working, right? Contact. Come on, baby! You can do it! Look at, oh, you almost did it. You were so close. Hello, little fella. I'll let you run out of one cylinder. We'll clear up. All right, well, we know one thing. We know that that's working. I better give it the old Italian tune-up. She might quit on it. I did turn the light bulb hitting again. Hopefully the purge valve was open when it was. All I wanted to see is if this was working. And it is. So that's good. We know that works. We know the purge valve was open, otherwise the dang thing wouldn't have stalled, right? But I would think, with the purge valve being open, let me go make sure I put the cap back over there. I put the cap back on it. Got all confused when it stalled. I would expect with the purge valve open, we have to assume at this point the vent valve is open. I would expect this to start pulling into some sort of vacuum during a purge event, even with the vent valve open. That's interesting. Let me rev it up a little bit here. I want to see if it's going to give us some more purge at a higher RPM. Or maybe get this up in the 20, 30, 40% range. I would expect to see this voltage start to drop. Well, it's not moving at all, is it? Alright, well that's kind of weird. Alright, let me put it back on the idle. Yeah, so that's kind of weird. And boy, we really have to suspect that purge valve was open, because given just that little toot in the gas tank, it, you know, stalled the engine. Let's make sure the purge is working, I suppose. It's like working on a little toy car. Where is the purge valve? Does anybody know? Doodly doo, where are you? Little purge valve. Come here, little purge valve. It's either this line or it's this line. Yeah, it's this little guy down here. Boy, for being a tiny car, that's pretty freaking inconvenient. Let me see if we can, this thing got a mass airflow? Yeah, it does. I don't know if we can run any of this crap off there. Probably not. All right, let me do some poking and see what we can do here. All right, how's about this? How's about you guys, as they say in Canada, come along here. Let's go to active tests, and then we're gonna go to something here, purge control solenoid valve. We want a custom list. We're gonna pick out the purge. We're just gonna see if we should hear it clicking, I'm going to assume. Active test now executed, but it's showing purge valve duty control still at 0. Now executed. I don't know how much I can trust this test. Obviously very little. Plus I don't hear anything clickety clacking down here, which I can get to the connector. Okay, so let's just unplug the connector if we can. Mother lover. And we cannot. Customer claims this part's new. It does not look new. It looks just as crusty as everything else on the car, so maybe he changed the wrong part or changed what he thought the purge valve was. There we go. Attaboy. You did good. And we have 2 wires. Let's go get a little test light. We're gonna stick a 250 milliamp test light across those 2 leads. We will very gingerly front probe it. Be careful not to spread the pins if they feel tight. If I can find them. Oh, poor baby. Alright, I think we're in. Let's try to, I got that test light hanging right there. Let's execute the test again. Oh, look at that, it did light up. So our test does work, and I think it only lasts for so long. Oops, and it says finished. Test, active now. Okay, so you guys can see the light lighting up there, obviously, hopefully. So we do have power ground and 250 milliamps of available current, which should be enough to kick on that purge. Seems like we would have heard it go ka-clank, ka-chunk when it turned on. However, we didn't. That connector unplugged wicked hard. And when I look at this, I'm just looking at the offset of the pins versus, I just find it hard to believe that the male and female have come together. Apparently they do. Yeah, plug back in. Let's turn it on again. I'm going to hold my hand on it. Bruh, as my kids call me, bruh. I went from papa to pop to dad to bruh. That's my evolution as a father of teenagers. Bruh. I don't feel it clickety clack. So we have, there's one hose that hooks to it, goes down to the canister. Let's find the other hose, see if we can unhook that just from the intake manifold. Let me see if I can see that little guy. And that must be, oh, that's this hose right here. Where my hose at? That's right here. Plugs right in behind the throttle body. Let's unhook this hose. Now that we know we have control, we can give this hose a little sucky and kick that purge valve on, and technically we should feel it open. Let me get a pick. If that makes sense to everybody. That's all that solenoid does, just opens and closes. And clearly we have control, which should put it at 100% duty cycle. You can't always hear these things click, so you can't always base it off that, but oftentimes you can. We'll have to put their lips on that baby. That will, in the name of science. In the name of car repair. We'll give it a little kiss. Let me get down here. I know we just met, but that's funny, I could blow right through it right now. Do we have the right hose? Yes, we do. We have the right hose right now, because there's only 2 hoses that hook to it. I can blow right through it. And nothing changes when it goes from, oh baby. Wait, that's some stuff. But I hear it, I literally hear it hissing right here though. That's the weird part. That's the part that's, he says he has the original valve in the car. Let me look to find that, because something's sus right here. I went through his car, found the white box of the, I bought it on eBay for a nickel special. So it must be, that's it. This is the OG. And this one you cannot blow through. So that's good. Well, it's half good. Let's get some jumper wires here. Stand by. We'll do this wire here. This is gonna get dangerous. That's gonna be sparks next to the face dangerous. That's right. Danger is my middle name. Okay, I hear she clicking. Let's see. Hopefully you guys can hear that. This one appears to work. That one appears to not work. However, a non-functioning purge valve would not set our code, because we would never hit the code criteria, the code set criteria. And the reason our engine stalled is because it's stuck open. Maybe it gets stuck open more, or maybe, oh, you ding dong. Of course this will set the code criteria, because didn't this say when it closes the vent valve? Let's see, sets when negative fuel pressure is below 0.6 during normal driving. During driving, fuel tank pressure is monitored by the OBD2 system, EVAP monitor, as the PCM closes the purge and vent solenoids. Okay, that makes sense. If we were to close the vent solenoid in the back, the tank would go into an extreme vacuum. It would assume that the purge valve is closed electronically, and then bada bing, bada boom, there's this problem. So this is always pulling vacuum on the tank, which I'm surprised. The vent system must be very good in this vehicle as far as when it's open, because most vehicles that I work on, when you put on a purge and the vent is open, there is still it's sort of a restriction, you know, in the tank. You got the canister, the vent valve itself, the vent valve filter, the hoses, you know, everything that it had mentioned in that article usually cause some sort of restriction, enough to see a slight dip in vacuum in the tank when the vent is open. However, in this one here, if the vent were to close, it would pull the system into a vacuum, into an unwanted vacuum. So what's curious is he took off a good purge valve, put on a junk one, but he did say that he did fix a bunch of wires under the seat where somebody was doing the hokey pokey. So it would be my suggestion to put this vent valve back on, or this purge valve back on. We can verify its operation. Doesn't look like a super treat to get to. Put this back on. I mean, everything should be good. Obviously, the vent system is not plugged up. Otherwise, otherwise we would be pulling the tank into a vacuum as it is. So it all makes sense. It all makes sense to me, baby. And we got to kiss a Mitsubishi first thing in the morning. All right, let me see about getting this thing tossed on there. And I don't expect much different results, because that thing feels like I could blow through it pretty easily, unless it's not actually, well, no, it has to be blowing through the valve. Like I said, I can hear it hissing is the part that's concerning. But clearly it does go through the valve, because when we put pressure in the tank, the engine stalled. So that tells me maybe it's leaking externally plus going through. Hard to say. It's all speculation, dude. So here's the one we took out. You can blow right through it. Shouldn't be able to blow through it at all, unless it's commanded on. These are normally closed, so see junk. 4 hours later, 7 swear words. We've got it back in there. A little bit of blood. Not a big deal. Before I hook up the hose that goes back to the tank, though, I grab my fluid extractor, and I've got it hooked just to that hose running back to the tank. So I'm gonna pump this thing. It's gonna put a pretty good vacuum. I want to see if we get a change negative in our fuel tank pressure. Should go back to atmospheric. Okay, we do. Yeah, that thing must be open, because this thing builds some pretty fast vacuum and a pretty big volume of it, and that's great. What about this? I did go into the active test and check the vent. It doesn't stay on for very long. It just clicks. But let's see if we should be able to put a vacuum on that with it closed, and then watch it come open. We don't want purge, ding dong, we want pressure. That's what we want. We'll hit OK. Hopefully we can graph it. And we can't. So we should see it go into a deep vacuum when that vent valve's closed. And then I put some vacuum on it with this little guy here. Nope, our data quits. But you could hear it. Did you guys hear that back there? What good is the data if the data quits while the test is active? But watch, you guys will hear it. Just listen. You hear that? And then you briefly see it down. That's great. This is wonderful. We fixed this little guy. Let me unhook our... This is just our fluid extractor. We use it for sucking fluids out of various orifices. So that's back on there. It's plugged in. So chances are this guy fixed whatever was going on with his other codes, and then just ended back up. I gotta move you guys. Ended up with this code here because of the eBay. And you guys gotta quit buying your parts on eBay and Amazon. It's getting to the point where when customers call us, and we always get the parts cannon story, but if it's a whole bunch of eBay, 1A Auto, all them other crappy online places, we just don't do the work. If it's a single piece like this where they save the OEM, I typically will, but yeah, I'm telling you that eBay Motors, Amazon, all those online selling places that sell all this white box Chinese garbage, it is simply that. It is garbage. It's brand new and it's broke. And it's getting frustrating, because the problem is the stuff is so cheap. It is cheaper for the people to guess than test, so they just buy everything. Buy all the sensors, buy $300 worth of stuff. Well, all that stuff costs less than like the one part that you needed, but they changed a whole bunch of crap, and now you got a whole bunch of problems. So yeah, we see it all too often. It's getting really frustrating. So we respectfully decline doing the work and ship them on their way. So that's that. Okay, we should be good. Yep, you can hear that purge valve clicking. It's faint, but you can certainly hear it. So I think we're in good shape. I'm gonna let the car go. Let them just take it and drive it. We've proved that the vent system has the ability to flow vacuum through it without building excessive vacuum in the tank. We proved that this purge valve was stuck wide open. Therefore, when it goes to do its test and it closes that canister vent valve, it's going to yank that system into a vacuum very, very quickly. And that meets the code set criteria of the 441. So that's it, simple as that. You can send this back to eBay, seller, Bunny Lover XOXO42069. See if he can get his money back. I don't know if that's the eBay seller's real name, but regardless, it's junk. So I'm hoping this all made sense to you folks, what we found, how we diagnosed it, how it makes sense looking at the code set criteria, and then hopefully it really hits home to you to not buy crappy aftermarket parts. You can buy some aftermarket, but make sure it's name brand, and even at that, try to get it from a brick and mortar store. Online is super enticing, but the counterfeit is so easy, and there's so much of it nowadays that it's almost impossible to tell. I think you know, there are some online vendors like perhaps Rock Auto that sells genuine, I would hope genuine, you know, aftermarket parts, whether it's standard or NGK or, you know, Bosch or whoever. Hopefully they're not, you know, you know, clones or knockoffs or, you know, just crappy stuff. So if you go online and you buy 8 Motorcraft ignition coils for your car and they're $49 for all 8, you're getting ripped off. Even if they come in a box or a bag that says Motorcraft on it, looks just like the OEM stuff. It's not. There is a reason when you go to the brick and mortar store, that's $109 for one, and you got all 8 for $45. Use your noodle. Until these people that are ripping you off start to learn to jack their prices up a little more, it's always gonna be like that. You're always gonna be tempted to buy that cheap little part. Don't do it. Just like in this case, it just doesn't end well. And but I know this video would end well if you went down in that comment section, left me a comment. I'm concerned you found us on the Insta, the Facebook. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.